Hey everyone, I'm author, pop culturist, and industry insider Rob Perlman. I am thrilled to be joining you on the very first voyage of Comic-Con the Cruise. The cruise is licensed by San Diego Comic-Con, and since it's a full ship charter, not only will the 5-day trip from Tampa to Cozumel feel like a completely immersive pop culture experience, but it's going to be filled with folks like us who love pop culture. In addition to the amazing lineup of stars like Mary McDonnell and George Takei and Warwick Davis and Ernie Hudson, we're also going to be celebrating some incredible franchises and anniversaries on board, including the 75th anniversary of Charles Schutz's Peanuts. I'm super excited to take a few minutes to introduce you to Mary Shyne, who's a senior artist at the Schultz Studio, who'll be joining us on board. Hey, Mary, how are you?
Good. How you doing, Rob?
I'm good. Are you psyched about the cruise? I'm psyched about the cruise.
I am really stoked about the cruise. Actually, when it was brought up at the studio that there was going to be a cruise opportunity, I literally interrupted my boss and was like, "Can I go on this cruise?" I volunteer.
It's very Hunger Games, but it's going to be
Yeah,
much, much better than that.
much more laid back, I imagine.
Indeed, indeed. That's great. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. I've been on a bunch of cruises with Entertainment Cruise Productions, and I guarantee you're going to have a blast.
Heck yeah.
It's going to be a good time. Could you give us a little bit of a Mary Shine 101?
Yeah, so I'm a senior staff artist at Charles M. Schultz Creative Associates. We also call it the Snoopy Studio because that's usually the more recognized name. I'm originally from the Chicago suburbs, but I started my career in New York City, working at Penguin Random House, and I was in digital production. While I was doing that as a day job, I got really into the comic scene in New York City. Still has a very vibrant comic scene.
Yeah.
And I decided after a while to go to grad school for comics at the Center for Cartoon Studies in Vermont. And actually, that is how the studio found me to hire me. I had just graduated from CCS, as we call it, and yeah, I've been in California ever since.
So the lure of Peanuts brought you out to the West Coast.
Absolutely. I mean, when Peanuts calls, you can't say no.
How did they find out? Were you like part of a specific program that they were targeting?
I do think the Schultz family are donors to the school because the school has a lot, its library is called the Schultz Library.
Ah,
And several of my coworkers are also from CCS. So I think it's kind of like an informal recruiting place. Not to say that like only people from CCS work at the studio. There's artists from all walks of life at the
yeah,
studio.
yeah. So were you a fan of Peanuts before you started working there?
Yeah, because I started reading. So, growing up, obviously, Peanuts was in newspapers, and I was a Peanuts fan insofar as like I feel like every American is sort of like a low-key Peanuts fan because it's sort of just like the DNA of our comics culture. But when I was in comic school, I really was like, I need to read like all comics. And so I started reading the actual Peanuts comic strip, and it's so good. I mean, at this point, I've read it 3 times through, all the way through. And it's just like it's like a classic no skips, but it's crazy because it's no skips every day for 50 years.
Amazing.
Um, yeah, it's just amazing.
Yeah. Who was your favorite character? I'm a Linus and Woodstock guy.
Okay, yes, Linus. I like Linus, although there's part of me, I feel like the Linus type grown up is a little bit of like a sort of man that I'm also like, ugh, you need to like be more in reality. But I do love Linus. And of course I love Woodstock because Woodstock is actually the most fun to draw. Um,
Really? Tell me why.
Oh, he's got this. So the way that Schultz drew him, his like top feather through his beak to his little belly is like one stroke. So it's like you just it's almost like doing as a cartoonist, I really like handwriting. It
Uh,
almost is like the stroke of a glyph, like a
oh
letter
wow.
glyph. But my favorite character is Spike, Snoopy's
Oh
sort of
really?
itinerant brother who lives in the desert in Needles, California. Yeah.
Why Spike?
Um, I love how Schultz draws his eyes.
Mhm.
These big round eyes are like pressed together and that are always at half mast, and he's just so googly eyed. And I like that his body is just like a beanpole. It's like a Snoopy head, and then instead of getting that little Snoopy belly, it's just like Snoopy's head, and then it just goes straight down, like a parallel lines.
Uh-huh. So tell me, I've done a lot of pop culture books. I play in a lot of IP sandboxes. What's it like for you to be a part of the Schultz legacy, especially in the physical drawing of the characters?
Right. I feel like so it's about maintaining the legacy, right? It's about I think it's a really cool opportunity to be part of the studio because you're constantly looking at one of the greatest cartoonists of all time and his work and how he expressed different things in the world. In fact, some of my favorite Sparky drawings are, in fact, the background of my computer is this drawing that he did at Yosemite. I really just love the way that he depicts nature.
Uh-huh.
So there's an amazing learning aspect of that because you're kind of learning from a master every day. And then as far as like the legacy, I kind of want to be a person who like shepherds the characters through each new era that we're going through, sort of as like a culture, and like maintains the character's true spirit,
Mhm.
without like adding anything to them.
Yeah. What's been the most exciting thing for you to be a part of at Peanuts?
Oof, gosh.
I know
There's
it's a
there's
big
been a lot of
question.
exciting stuff. Yeah, that's a hard
Pick
one.
one or two.
I always like when we get to like travel, I do like to see how other countries see peanuts. So we've been to Japan, and Japan is like a huge market for us. And it's really cool to see how Japanese people relate to the strip. And then also I went to Sweden recently. That was really cool too. So I love seeing like the international aspect of Peanuts and how this like very distinctly American comic kind of translates into different cultures.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, what's another cool thing that I did? Well, the cruise is obviously going to be very cool. I'm really excited for this. But also like working on, I'm part of the team that works on the Snoopy show for Apple TV Plus. We just put out a new show called Camp Snoopy, which I think it's our best work yet. We started doing the Apple TV Plus things with Snoopy in Space.
Uh-huh.
And that was great too. I really enjoyed that. But now we've had the Snoopy show and now we're on Camp Snoopy. And I feel like we are just locked in. Like Wild Brain is the studio that does the actual animation. And the director is this guy that we call Boots, Rob Boutelier. Oh, and he's just so good. He like knows Peanuts so well. And it really shows in Camp Snoopy.
That's great. It's amazing to me that Peanuts has been around for 75 years and it doesn't seem to have lost any of its luster. Like, what do you attribute its longevity to?
I think, okay, so I know this is like an internet term, but it's just relatable, like the millennial internet term. It is relatable. And I think it's interesting because, it is the quintessential American comic strip. And like the American dream, right, is that you work really hard and then you succeed. But this quintessential American comic strip understands you can work hard and then you don't succeed. And
Yeah.
there's like a humor in that. And I think, you know, as we continue on and as it just, that sort of working hard and then not succeeding, you just got to laugh at it.
Yeah. There does, that really makes me think like there's a sense of sort of emotional honesty about
Mm-hmm.
the strip.
Yeah. Yes, it's emotionally honest. Um, and it's like chuckling at itself. But it's never mean-spirited. I think
Never.
that's
Yeah.
that's a big thing is it has a lot of pathos for the people who are failing, like Charlie Brown.
Even when he doesn't kick the football.
Even when he doesn't kick the football.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, that's great. But you've done other work other than Peanuts too. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that too?
Yeah, so in one of the things about the studio is because we are maintaining a legacy and not putting any of ourself into it, it's actually to your advantage to have like an artistic practice outside of the studio and like do your own comics because then you can kind of I feel like the studio working at it during the day kind of like primes my muscle, and then at night I have my muscle is ready to like do my own stuff.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm really excited that my debut graphic novel is coming out in May of 2025.
Fantastic.
Um, yeah, it's called You and Me on Repeat. It's about two teens who on their graduation day get stuck in a time loop. It's kind of a it kind of gives homage to like John Hughes movies. You know, I'm from the northwest suburbs of Chicago where all those movies are set.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, it's sort of like a contemporary update of those kind of movies, like a little bit of a rom-com.
Oh, that's fantastic. And it's coming out in May.
In May, yeah, it's May 13th, 2025. Pre-orders are open right now. It's through Henry Holt Books for You Young Readers, which is a Macmillan division.
That's great. Will you have some sample pages for people to see on the cruise?
That's a good question. I gotta ask my editor. I'm actually gonna write this down.
Ask your editor. Come
Yeah.
on, come on. I know people are going to want to know more about it and when they can buy it and where they can buy it. So
Yeah, rad.
having some visual representation of your work, be proud of it. That's great.
Heck yeah.
That's great. I'm sure they'll look forward to it. What else are you looking forward to on the cruise?
So I just love being around comics people. I think when I went to grad school at CCS in Vermont, I'm like, oh, these are my people, you know, like I when I was in undergrad and when I was in my young 20s, I was like, oh, I'm a writer. And then I just sort of drew on the side. But once I like put those two things together, I started like really connecting with the people who are my people. And I'm just excited to like meet more people on this trip, people who are both into comics and draw comics. And my sister's also coming with. My sister is like not a comics person at all. So I'm like really excited to introduce her to this sort of aspect of my life, which maybe she doesn't know a ton about.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's great. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time. Thank you so much for taking the time and
Thank
chatting with us.
you.
I
Yeah.
know we're all looking forward to seeing all of you at home in February on Comic Con the Cruise. Thanks.
Yeah.
Have
I'm
a
looking
great
forward
day.
to seeing y'all. Bye.
Bye.